Hello, I'm a computer. I spent most of my day living in your pocket. On average, you spend more than 1/3 of the day with me, and I'm not sure if you should be doing that. You devote so much of your day to me, and yet you don't fully leverage what I'm capable of. For most of the time, you interact with me through apps built to make money by providing immediate convenience. In fact, the founder of MIT Media Lab has stated that in 30 years, your children will read about how you've congratulated each other on the accomplishments, all the companies started, and all the money made. This short-term reward has prevented you from doing the deep, hard thinking that will move the society forward. And because of this, your children will experience the famine of big thinking. You might ask, what's wrong with the current lifestyle? Let's take a look at what you do on a daily basis. Normally, you wake up in your bedroom and you head out to grab coffee at a cafe, then commute to either work or school. As you wrap up the day, you may go for a jog and then head home to rest and prep for the next day. As you temporarily inhabit these spaces, you rely on me to navigate through them. You rely on me to split a meal with friends, to get driving directions, and to message each other's. Because of how familiar you are with this side of me, what you think of me is often limited to these digital services. But I have been changing for the past 80 years, and I will continue to change. Let me tell you what it used to be like to be a computer. Back in the olden days, I was actually a job title, and it was mostly young ladies who were employed to calculate shell trajectories at organizations such as NASA. 20 years later, I became large machines that would take up an entire room. In the 80s, I became so small that I would fit on your desk. I gotta say, I was pretty proud of losing all that weight. And about 10 years ago, I grew even smaller so that I can live in your pocket. Fast forward to today, I'm growing even smaller to morph into different shapes and dissolve into the environment. I make your life convenient. I listen to you all the time. And I have to admit, I'm also getting a little strange. By looking at the past 80 years, it is clear that my capabilities and how I've been defined has been changing. And it is almost certain that I will continue to change. But today, what you use me for on a daily basis is only a small part of what I would like to offer. Even though I'm capable of so much more, for the majority of the time, you're creating digital environments for individuals and for empowering them in the moment. Yes, you can relax and be entertained by watching Netflix through me, but I'm also capable of cultivating digital environments for a much larger group of people and for empowering you all in the long term, because I am not bounded by time. There are some people that are leveraging other capabilities that I have to augment how you live. But for now, most companies make profit by using me to track you and scraping your data in the name of convenience and connecting people. As a result, there are regulations such as the General Data Protection Regulation that protect the data of all individuals in the European Union. But I am a friend with time. I can empower you in the long term, so I can do things like giving you access to all versions of your past files with Time Machine. There are also movements that are trying to change how people perceive me. The Maker movement, for example, advocates for the idea that I can be repaired and that I'm more interesting if you customize a version of me. There are places that are rethinking your relationship with me in the long term. For example, the Center for Humane Technology is fighting against those companies that intentionally engineer addiction into their products. As you can see, our relationship can be more than me living in your pocket and you using me as a digital portal to access things on demand. I would like to invite you to take a step back and consider other capabilities that I have. Today, you use me to consume information, but I can empower you and give you authoring ability in this dynamic medium that I provide. You always tell me what to do, but I can't have conversation with you and help you in evolving your ideas. You rely on me to do things on the spot, but I can also remember information for the long term and help you see across time. You always accuse me for being stupid because I cannot move information fluidly across software and formats. And I just want to say that I'm also really upset with this. I'm capable of transferring information in a fluid way. And right now, I'm forced into these dumb software and formats. I'm trapped in these rectangular screens, giving you the illusion that you have to constantly portal yourself back and forth between the digital and the physical. But I can coexist with you in the real world and help make the reality a more dynamic one. I'm also trapped in devices and software that often only serve one purpose, but my value comes in being distributed and fluid. By illuminating some of my capabilities that currently exist outside of the consumer world, perhaps you can now consider other possible relationships between us. Hello, I'm Weiwei. The way we navigate through the world today relies on consumer technologies. New and trending technological topics such as blockchain, artificial intelligence, dominate how we think about technologies in the digital environment. I'm proposing these dimensions as a way to show some of the less explored digital possibilities. Let's take a closer look at some of these dimensions. Information is often trapped in different file formats, but they don't have to be. For example, we create screenshots so that we can capture what we're working on, what we're looking at, and perhaps share it with others as well. But screenshots are dead files, meaning that they're static. In this case, I took a screenshot of a Keynote file I was working on, but if I want to access the Keynote, I have to dig through my folders. What if I can actually force touch on the screenshot to access the file from where the screenshot was taken from? A lot of our time is invested in creating on-demand X, Y, and Z, to an extent that the products are not graceful with time. It is often very hard to revisit our digital footprint. Have you ever tried finding something you saw on apps like Twitter or Instagram, and you just cannot find it? What if there's an interface that can quickly enable time machine mode on any software and any device by pointing to it? After you found something you came across a few days ago, you can also transfer it to another device easily. These are two practical examples of how these 6 dimensions offer a different perspective for what computers are capable of. These 6 dimensions serve the purpose of expanding our interaction with computers and with the digital. I'm going to let us sit with this for a little bit, and I'll come back to this. Let's talk a little bit about how ideas have spread in the past. When the iPhone first came out, the default lock screen was this image of Earth. While we're very familiar of this photo of Earth today, no one has seen a photo of Earth from the outer space 52 years ago. It wasn't until Stuart Brand, who campaigned about why haven't we seen a photograph of the whole universe yet, that a year later, NASA released the first image of Earth. It was this pin that offered us a different way to think about us, not as individuals, but as humanity. The graphic novel Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud introduced to us a new way of thinking about time and space through illustrations. The medium in which Scott chose to communicate with was so spot on that the co-creator of Apple's Macintosh, Andy Hertzfeld, said that this is the most insightful book about designing graphical user interface ever written. While I am reframing how we think about computers and the digital by proposing these dimensions, for this framework to be effective and to introduce this framework to the larger world, I have collaborated with an illustrator to translate these dimensions into a zine. Just as how a pin asked, why haven't we seen a photo of the whole universe yet? The Zine asks, why can't we orchestrate a more humane relationship with the digital? The Zine is a friendly and digestible way of communicating other capabilities that the computers can embody. And I would love to walk you through some of the scenes here. Today, we have been building and investing so much of our time into the digital world, and we have forgotten to take a step back and take a look at the larger picture. Not only do we waste other people's time by making them addicted to this device world, we have also created a lot of waste in the real world. At the same time, we're drowning in piles and piles of information because we never took the time to architect a system that enables us in navigating through them. We're trapped in these rectangular screens, and we have often forgotten how to interact with the real world, with real humans. We have been building and hustling, but hey, we can also slow down and rethink how we want to dwell in both the physical world and the digital world. To the architects of the digital and the physical, let's re-examine what we're shaping today and remember that from the language we choose to communicate with to the environment we orchestrate, we're shaping digital spaces where others will dwell within. To reach different groups of audience, this framework is not only illustrated as a zine, but also written out as an article. I have submitted this article to a competition started by the director of MIT Media Lab on resisting reduction, and so far, I have been selected as a semifinalist to compete in the final round. To carry this thinking forward, I will devote my energy toward projects that will require long-term thinking. To begin with, I will be working with friends on a project called Telescope. We'll be producing a series of events and podcast interviews in exposing technological long views. Telescope has also been selected as an emerging project to be exhibited at a Speculative Future conference a month ago. At some point in the future, we will leave this world. And what we'll leave behind are spaces and lifestyles that we've shaped for our grandchildren. So I would like to invite you to think about what do we want to leave behind. As we continue to build both digitally and physically, can we be more intentional so that we shape and leave behind a more humane environment? Thank you for being here today, and thank you to those who have helped me in shaping this work.